Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I'm finally getting a chance to create with the Simon Says Stamp October 2017 card kit. As always, I will have a link to the kit as well as to everything individually, because if people are watching this video down the road when the kit is sold out, etc, etc. So I could not decide for the life of me. That was part of my struggles. I was like, what am I going to create? And there were so many ideas going on, and I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm going to make 3 cards. So I took the 3 kind of main sentiments from the brushstroke messages set, and I have a piece of Simon Says Ivory cardstock here, and I lined it up in my mini Misty, and then I lined up all 3 stamps, making sure there was enough space between them because I'm going to cut these up. But I lined up all 3 of my stamps, and then I used my anti-static powder tool, and I inked up the stamps with Simon Says clear embossing ink. And then I'm using Simon's new navy embossing powder on these. And I really like this powder. It's different. It's almost shimmery in a way. Like the actual navy itself is almost shimmery. You can kind of see it in real life when you tilt it in the light. It's pretty. So coated it all with that, melted it all with my heat tool. Funnel back the embossing powder, put a lid on. I get grief from people now. Everyone knows. It's like, oh my God, you didn't put the lid on. Like, how did you survive? Yeah, some days I'm good. Other days, if I forget to put the lid on, yeah, I haven't been known to knock over entire containers of embossing powder. So anywho, once everything is melted, had a second to cool off, I trimmed down all 3 strips here. And then in that kit is this beautiful My Mind's Eye blush pattern papers, which just, it hurt. It almost physically hurt to cut these up. But I die cut all 3 with the second largest Simon Says basic rectangle dies. And then decided to add a vellum heart using Simon's vellum and the second largest wonky heart die. So same thing, you can kind of see a little bit in the picture at the end, like there's fun little like wonky stitching around the perimeter of the heart. So I did that, and then I die cut some cardstock with the little spiral flower wafer die that comes in the kit. So I die cut those, and then I trimmed down some pattern paper. Like I kind of went it similar with all 3 cards because 1, it made things quicker, and 2, I was really liking how everything was coming together. So I thought I would do 3 cards similar, but just kind of mix up obviously the sentiments and which pattern papers I used, etc. So I trimmed down some little strips of pattern paper and the sentiments, and I just used my scissors to cut a little notch and then meet each corner with the notch to create little flag ends. And then I'm going to line up where I want to place that vellum heart. And then I'm applying adhesive to the back of these strips of pattern paper and the sentiment. And I planned on cutting the edge of the heart off. So I've got everything kind of lined up, and I'm just applying adhesive first to these little banners, making sure the edges are going to line up with the edge of the pattern paper here. And then once I've kind of got that figured out with this card, I was like, oh, I want to put that blue die cut flower underneath the main sentiment. So I quickly pulled it off before it had a chance to. Usually when you use ATG adhesive, once it's really pressed down, you're going to tear everything. But I moved quick enough, I was able to pull it up. And then I pressed that heart underneath. And then for the lighter, or flower, and then for the flower I die cut from Ivory cardstock, I'm just adding little tiny dabs of multi-medium matte adhesive just to the little spiral areas. There's no need to coat the entire thing with adhesive. And it just only takes like the teeniest little dabs. And then I just press that into place. And then to adhere these vellum hearts, because vellum shows adhesive, that was why I did these like extra little banners of pattern paper. I applied the adhesive right behind the pattern paper so that you can't see it. And then I can press this into place on top of that rectangle of pattern paper, and then just flip this over and trim off the rest of the heart that's kind of hanging off the edge there. So I did this 3 times, just going along and doing the same process. So with the second card, the one that says you are loved, I put the heart like more in the center of the paper so I didn't trim anything off. I thought it was kind of more fitting just with the heart to keep it whole the way it says you are loved. That was my thought process anyway. So I did that one. And then with this third card, same idea. Just kind of lined up the heart where I'm planning on adhering it, and then adhering the pattern paper banners over it before I press this, like everything down. And then same thing with the sentiment. So got everything adhered, figured out where I'm going to adhere my little tiny die cut flowers here. And same thing, tiny, tiny little dabs of multi-medium matte adhesive. And then just pressing that down for a couple seconds until it adheres. And then I can apply my ATG adhesive behind the little banners So you can't see it through the vellum. Flip that over, line that back up, the edges of the pattern paper with the edge of the die cut pattern paper. And then flip this over and trim off that little bit of excess vellum. So I've got all 3 card fronts made. And then for my card bases, I cut up the smoke cardstock that's in a kit. So I got 2 card bases out of that, and I still had enough of the ivory cardstock left over. So I cut that to the 4 1/4 by 11 inches. So all these are top folding A2 size cards. So I've got all of these adhered flat to the card base. I did think about popping everything, different things up with foam tape and giving it dimension, which you totally could do, and it just gives it that little extra something. But I thought these are fun because it keeps them really flat, so they're really easy to mail. So I adhered all my card fronts to the card bases, and I had leftover pattern paper from die cutting the rectangles for the front. So I trimmed all of those down, and I'm going to adhere those to the inside of the card because I'm not going to waste that pattern paper, especially with that foil. Oh, that rose gold foil, just love. So adhered the strips, the coordinating strips of pattern paper to the inside of the card. And then in that brushstroke messages set, there's 3 other sentiments that just kind of go with the, main ones. I just call them the main ones. So I decided to use those on the inside of all of these cards. So I used my anti-static powder tool again, and then I'm inking up these sentiments with the Simon Says clear ink again. And then I'm going to use that same navy embossing powder just to kind of tie everything together. So pour that over and then melt that with my heat tool. So a couple of the cards, I stamped it on the actual card base, and then the one card, because there was enough kind of just open space on the pattern paper, I decided to stamp the sentiment right onto that, just for something a little bit different. So inked up the sentiment, stamped it, poured on the embossing powder, made sure my heat tool was good and hot before I brought it to the paper so I could melt it faster. And then that finished off all my cards. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post, links to all the supplies used. Like I said, I'll have a link to the kit and the info. As of filming this and uploading this, the kit is still available, but they always sell out. Oh, and there's 2 envelopes in the kit, the metallic cream. So 2 of the cards have the metallic cream envelopes, and then I pulled a soft navy envelope from my stash that matches the soft navy cardstock and the embossing powder. So that completely finishes off these cards. So, like I said, I will have links below the video and on my blog post to all the supplies used. I'll have it to the kit as well as to everything individually for when the kit does eventually sell out. So you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I appreciate your guys' support, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!